Hey, fellow patriots, I'm Bree.
And I'm Blaze. Some call me Pa. It has been said that we have 4 boxes to keep ourselves free. These are the soapbox, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box.
And we are the 4th box. We are here to arm you with enough information, resources, and skills to take back your freedom, increase your self-sufficiency, and inspire you to join in the fight against tyranny.
Thomas Jefferson said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." Thank you for joining us and for joining in this fight.
Welcome back to the 4th box. Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to another week at the 4th Box podcast. This year is just flying by. We are coming up on September already. I really don't know how that's possible, but here we are. So we are still kind of coming off of our trip. I know last week we reminded you we were already back, but I think we're still reliving some of the fun memories. And I know that Pops and I have another upcoming trip here this weekend to see our sweet new, my nephew and your grandbaby Riker. So we're looking forward to that. So all that said, Pops, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started with tonight's episode.
Okay, thanks a lot. Again, we're very anxious to bring our guest in, so I'm going to buzz down through the beginning show stuff here, and I'm going to raise my glass tonight in toast. First and foremost, I suppose everybody has heard the passing of Dolly Parton, who I think by any measure can be considered a great American, certainly very, very patriotic. And she passed away today, I believe, at the age of 80. I'm raising my glass in salute to Dolly Parton. Secondarily, I'm gonna toast Enes Kanter Freedom, who I think everybody may recognize the name. He is a professional basketball player now out of the NBA, but he had made himself visible at a WBA basketball game, the Women's League, with a shirt on that was basically describing, the ongoing conflict about men in women's sports and so on. And he was addressed quite rudely by one of the players and ultimately ended up being thrown out because he was calling out, men should play in men's sports and women in women's. But I'm saluting Enes Kanter Freedom, who continues to stand up for a lot of the things we believe in, which is sanity and truth. So I'm saluting Enes Kanter Freedom as well.
Yeah, cheers.
And by the way, tonight at the virtual Buckman Tavern, the place that Patriots gather, I'm having a little taste of 10-year-old single malt Islay Scotch whiskey. It's quite tasty.
One of your faves.
It is, yeah. So the quote for tonight: when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men living together in society, they create for themselves in the course of time a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. And that was from Frederick Bassett-Tott out of The Law, 1850. And lastly, for our moment in history, we are continuing to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and 1776. So our moment in history today, from August 29th, the Americans withdrew from Manhattan, and the forces began withdrawing and moving down to Westchester, Pennsylvania, setting the stage for the British occupation of New York City. And ultimately, we know what happened down in the Westchester Valley Forge area in the upcoming winters. But the evacuation of the Patriots from Manhattan began on August 29th. So that's our moment in history from this week. And we are now ready to move into bringing in our guest.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. As always, we love to look back on those moments in history 250 years ago. I think that's going to really tie in nicely with our guest this evening, because we are looking back on the year 1776, which is going to become relevant here in just a moment. Our guest is Paul McGlothlin. He is the founder of 76 Spirits. and Anthrorithims. He built 76 Spirits to bring the voices of the founding generation back into today's arguments, pushing Americans to rejoin each other across disagreement rather than retreat into separate corners. Anthrorithims is his broader effort to build technology that strengthens human connection and community instead of replacing it. So, with that, Paul, welcome to the Fourth Box.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here.
We're very happy to have you. We'd love to hear a little bit more about both of these things, Anthrorithims and 76 Spirits. So we'll just let you dive right in.
Well, I couldn't think of a better transition from, you were giving this date in 1776. Well, that's one of the most fun things to do on 76spirits.com is I have an app on there. It's all full of fun things to do. And one of them is called Spill the Tea Party app. And what it does is it kind of spills the tea and gives you the gossip about what was going on that exact day 250 years ago. And the premise of this is that through an odd convergence of the internet and the mythology that we've built up around the founders of our country, that somehow or another they've utilized a combination of AI, Franklin's kite, lightning, however they got here. On New Year's Eve, several of the founders arrived for the 250th anniversary, ready to celebrate, but they found chaos. They found Americans at each other's throats, fighting, debating about what hat they're wearing, and they just thought, oh, wait a second, this isn't the way the 250th celebration should go. And so Franklin, being a guy with a lot of ingenuity, he built himself what he calls an electrical gazette, which is a website. And he was able to magically bring back, about 14 or 15 of the other founders. And over the course of the next, say, several years, they're going to bring one or two at a time, a new spirit back from 1776 and also from throughout America's history. People who played pivotal roles, because a founder isn't just one of the people chiseled in stone. It's, a soldier who was on the battlefield, in the Revolution. It was, Lincoln could be considered a founder, the second founder of our nation. And it'll be up to the people who visit the website to decide just who those founders should be. You get to elect spirits as well. The problem with me is if you let me talk, I'll just talk forever. So just tell me to shut up at any time.
We never mind. You can go and go. And I think that we're, already enjoying what you have to say, and definitely ties in nicely, as you said, with us kind of calling upon the 250 years ago, what's going on today. And I love that you're calling it in your space, Spill the Tea Party. I think it's really fun to tie in modern terminology, modern slang with these old ideas, bringing back these spirits and kind of looking at it from their perspective. What would they have to say? That's what we always are trying to ask here on the Fourth Box. What would they think about the country that we have here? So it sounds like you are really trying to examine that yourself.
Well, it's almost like that's another perfect little transition to the next thing. If you go on the website right below Spill the Tea Party, there's an app called The Daily Grind. And that's exactly, I could actually just look at it. It says, you never tire of asking what we would think. Stop asking. We read your papers every morning and we answer it here. So basically, various spirits, usually it's Thomas Paine, because although Franklin is the webmaster, Thomas Paine is the editor-in-chief. And I don't know if you know much about Thomas Paine, but he's pretty much always pissed off. And there's something that's under his skin. And so he kicks things off with the Daily Grind. He reads all the papers, he watches the news feeds, and there's something that gets under his skin, and he demands common sense now. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, he's rewritten, there are two distinct things. There's the real person, Thomas Paine, and then there's the spirit, Thomas Paine, who has not only the life history of Thomas Paine, but that 250 intervening years, they've been in this place called the Nexus, and they've kind of watched our country develop. And they have opinions. They're not entirely, stuck in the 18th century. And so what he did is he put together this thing where he reads the news, something that he's upset about, and then he throws it to somebody sitting in the Federalist chair, somebody sitting in the Anti-Federalist chair, and somebody sitting in the Common Grounds chair. And they debate that particular issue of the day. And that kind of leads me to why I started this whole thing is I think we all could relate to this part of it. For some reason or another, everybody I know has fallen out of favor, or they've lost communication with somebody they either really cared for deeply or even loved, or was a member of their family. And it's really sad. It really is. I myself have family members. Thank God I'm still, I still can pick up the phone and talk to them. But sometimes Thanksgiving dinner table, it's a little cliche, but things can get a little bit rough. I always try to put politics aside with things, and but I don't think you should stop arguing your politics. When I was growing up, my mom and dad, I used to always remember they would wonder which the other voted for. And and they would actually make a decision every 4 years on who they'd vote for president, and they would make pretty much a decision on who they'd pick for their representatives and things. And I just don't see that today. And I also I don't know how I'm not sure what the overall topic of your podcast is, but I'm also very concerned about the way people deal with religion these days. I'm not a zealot. I don't go out there and I'm as I always joke. I grew up as a Presbyterian. That pretty much means I know nothing about the Bible, and we pretty much just got together on Sundays, and it was a social event more than anything else. And our reverend was kind of like a comedian and was enjoyable. But I've never gone out there and tried to tell anybody, about. I don't try to convert anybody, but I always love hearing what other people say. So I actually built 2 websites that were specifically about the problems I've been having with some of my loved ones and people who are close to me. One was 76 Spirits for all the political stuff, and the other one I turned an old book that my father, he's passed since, he wrote a book called The Red Stuff, and sort of like the Jefferson Bible, where he took just if you just took the philosophy of Jesus and you printed it, that's what the Jefferson Bible is. And my dad was kind of doing a modern take on that. He never finished it. So I made a website called The Red Stuff. And basically what it does is very similar to 76 Spirits. It looks at today's headlines, and it gives you sort of a quote only. It doesn't take anything else from the bill, except it draws from actual quotes that were the words of Jesus that would have been helpful in a situation like that. So it's by no means is it anything that is preachy. Really what it does is, at the end of the day, the website asks you to go out and do one of the things, like go feed somebody, go teach something, go help your neighbor shovel their drive, actually take some action. And that, circling back to 76 Spirits, that's what I'm hoping this website will do. It's very new. Literally, I think I took the functional version of it and put it online today. It's been up and running since New Year's Eve, but it really hasn't been all that functional until now. And so one of the things I really wanted to do is get people to come together. So there's a feature there which is 76 cups of coffee. So there's an app that, you remember Anthrorithims, that company that I started. The whole point of that is it's sort of a social media application called Focal Points, that you focus on what matters. And the idea is instead of being on your phone scrolling all day or texting your friend or whatever, actually I don't have my phone, I'd show it to you. I practice what I preach. You shouldn't have your phone all the time. Yeah. So the idea is that, you could go to a place, fire up Focal Points, and really what that app does is all of a sudden it just shuts down and it starts counting minutes. And for every minute that you're focused, you got to go someplace, see someone, do something. It kind of gives you a focal point for every minute that you stay focused on something that's important. You could do it in class. You could do it at a coffee shop. You could do it anywhere. And so one of the things where there's an overlap with 76 Spirits is if you get together with somebody who your brother, and you fell out over politics or whatever, if you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go have a cup of coffee with my brother, and we're going to just talk, about things. We're not going to fight about them, but we're going to talk about them. And for that, The 76 Spirits website sponsors the first 76 people who take that up. We buy 76 cups of coffee.
Okay.
Can't
I
can't
love
go
that.
much further than that. Otherwise, I go broke. The second cup is on you, and if there's two people there, you're gonna have to fight over the cup. That'll be the first part of your conversation. Who gets the free cup?
Yeah. That's great though. I love everything that you're working on. Dad, I see you writing notes. What questions do you have so far?
I have been writing notes, and Paul, what I wanted to do was back up just a little bit and give us a little feel for what motivated you to build these websites and become active in this arena. Had you been politically active? Give us a little bit of that background because I have some follow up to that.
Yeah, I guess, oddly enough, it's really not the politics or the religion that made me build those websites. It's my background as an educator. And long ago, about 7 or 8 years before YouTube, I had a channel on the internet. And I think around the time when, look how old, I'm very old. You can see that, yes. Before YouTube and before anybody even knew you could put video on the web, um, I was, since I was involved with using the computer in the classroom a lot. I was uh, I was trained by some people at ARPA with about 150 other teachers. We went to this big seminar and they showed us this thing called the World Wide Web. And the first thing I said was, "Hey, can I put video in that?" Because I was a journalism teacher and I had my kids doing a TV news show. And they go, "Nah, peanut butter through a straw, you can never do it." And I never listened to anybody about anything. And I was lucky to find this really genius engineer there who helped me get this thing together. I called it EdTV. And it was a bunch of middle school kids who put on a TV show and we streamed it online. The only problem was that, those back in the day had dial-up modems. It was a video and it streamed out. If you had a really fast connection, like a T1 line or an ISDN line, you could see it. But everybody who did their dial-up modem saw one frame at a time. So I was kind of on the bleeding edge of that technology. But the reason I did it was because I saw it when they first showed me, what was possible with what was, the World Wide Web. I thought, oh my God, this is either going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to education or it's going to be the worst thing. Unfortunately, I think it's turned out to be a combination of both, probably leaning more on the worst part. So when AI started coming around, I thought to myself, this, once again, here's something that could be really great for education, or it could be just awful. And how are we ever going to be able to know what's going on in the classroom? And if you thought the web was taking people's attention away, wait until you get, not just cat videos, but, AI cat videos. The whole thing is just going to be chaos. So that was the main reason I started Anthrorithims. And it was basically the catchphrase for Anthrorithims is follow your heart, not the algorithm. And that's why it's anthro, as in human rhythm, the rhythm of life,
Okay.
human rhythm.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
and remember, tell me to shut up at any time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No need.
We'll burn through an hour here pretty quickly. But what I wanted to comment on also, Paul, you had kind of hinted that maybe you didn't know a lot about what we were and what we were standing for and all of those things. So really, we here at the Fourth Box now, we've been doing this for almost it'll be 3 years come Christmas time. And Bree was really the inspiration, and she had been pestering me. I've been writing and politically active since 1989. But really, what our commitment is to promote personal liberty, the foundational principles that are found in the founding documents that need to be preserved and protected, the God-given rights that are preserved there. And that's really what our commitment is. The fourth box comes real quickly. It comes from statements that a couple of historical figures made, the first being Stephen Decatur Miller back in 1832, but really made much more famous by Frederick Douglass. And the four boxes of liberty are the soap box, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box. And we call ourselves the ammo box with full intention to arm people with information, make connections with like-minded people. And it seems to me, and I'm going to take a leap here, but I don't think it's too far. It seems to me that your efforts here and your websites are committed to unifying, trying to unify people, to get people to talk again. And one of the things that we always strive to do here is give action items. We believe that this country can be restored by rebuilding families and communities. And it seems like the effort that you're making is very much focused on that very thing as well. Is that a good
Oh
assessment?
yeah, that's absolutely true. It's so funny. A lot of the things that you say, I'm glancing over at my website, and when you talk about arming yourself, one of the sections is called the armory
Mm.
on
Okay,
the website. And when you click on it, it's not what you think. It's not about guns and weapons. It's about arm yourself with knowledge.
of course.
And before you make a stand, know where you stand. And
Hmm.
you could take a little quiz that it doesn't say, am I left? Am I right? Take this litmus test. What it does is it asks you a bunch of questions. How would you react to this situation? How would you react to that? How do you think about this? What do you feel about that? And then it says, well, you would, in 1776, you'd be considered a federalist, a person who was really in charge of a strong, in favor of a strong federal government, or you'd be an anti-federalist, or you'd be, uh, yeah, or you'd be a loyalist, to the king.
Hmm.
Um, so it's always good to, and you can also just take a constitution test on there. But
Oh,
it's
good.
administered, it's administered by the founders. So, if somebody's wanting to, get ready for their citizenship test, or an 11th grader is getting ready for their, constitution test they have to take in the 11th grade, or an 8th grader, they have to take it in 8th grade too. Um, and it has tools like that, but that's exactly the cause of everything that I do is, probably first just making sure that people are not fighting with one another.
Hmm.
I mean, physically fighting with each other, but arguing. And there's a big difference. And the other, or maybe the first thing, is I'm very concerned about education. My dad was an educator. His dad was an educator. We were both, high school teachers and principals, and it's I'm always just like renewed every time I talk to a student. You can get pretty depressed about things, but and you think the world's going to hell or whatever. But you know, I always enjoyed every day I'd walk into my classroom, and definitely half or more of those kids in that classroom were way smarter than I was. And there were very
Yeah.
there were very few that weren't, that were less. I was either on par with them or they just soared above me, and way more about. I just learned more about everything from my students than I think my students ever learned from me.
That's
So
amazing.
I always have hope in the future because,
What was your background? History? What?
oh heck no, I learned everything about. I mean, my dad was a history professor,
Okay.
so what I learned, I kind of learned just stories he would tell. When he would, with tears in his eyes, help me with my homework, he'd be so disappointed. No, but I always like to say my history education comes from sitting at the table in the faculty lounge with the history teachers, because
Okay.
they're some of the more talkative and storytelling. You can hear some of the best stories from history teachers.
Mhm.
So I always got their perspective on things, and so a lot of it just kind of by osmosis. I've always been a very huge fan of everything to do with the revolution and the founding of our country. I took a trip in the 8th grade to to Washington D.C. and Colonial Williamsburg, and I just fell in love with it. And not too long ago, when my daughter was just before she went to UCLA, we took a trip to Colonial Williamsburg and toured the whole, kind of the whole Revolutionary Road tour.
Hmm.
And it's always been just a very, very, very interesting part of history for me.
Well, as you may have noted at the beginning, we always say that our podcast is coming to our listeners from the virtual Buckman Tavern, and that's the place up on the Lexington Green, where the patriots used to gather to discuss the troubles of the day, and we also have an affliction for the revolution and those brave men and women that decided they were going to cast off the authority of the king and try this grand experiment, and then subsequently fight that long and drawn out war, and then put this framework together. And we have such a high regard for that. And we try and instill that in our listeners. We often call to mind many of those quotes from Thomas Paine and Patrick Henry and John Jay and the rest, Paul Revere. But we try to bring that to light as we did with our moment in history. And we really think that the personal liberty that was secured in those documents has been under assault, as governments typically do. Governments are all about accumulating power. So we are really trying to educate people and bring people together. And I think your efforts work hand in hand with what we're doing. And it's really to try to bring people together, make them aware of how it is supposed to be and how far we've drifted. And let's talk about how we get back on that track.
Yeah, it's fascinating because although I'm not a history teacher or major or anything, I know a fair amount about history. And after putting this website together, I think I know too much. I think I know more than I planned on knowing about the American Revolution. But I've always, I'm a journalism teacher, so I have an affinity for Thomas Paine, because America's founding journalist, as it were, and
the catalyst, quite honestly, a significant catalyst. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The combination of Paine's fire and Franklin's printing press and business sense, there wouldn't have been a United States without those two things.
Yeah.
But what really, I think more than anything else, just bugs me, and it should bug anybody on either side of the political spectrum or anywhere on the political spectrum, is people who claim to know what the founders intended, and then they will trot out the letter of a document and point to a specific thing, and then when that actually doesn't work for them, then they'll talk about the spirit of the law versus then the letter of the law. But the bottom line is, most of the people who are doing this, and unfortunately some of our own higher level justices, seem to abandon their principle about either, well, I'm an original intent kind of guy, or when you are using situational ethics to decide how you're going to, what maxim you're going to follow to make a decision. I have no time for that. And so that was the other thing about the 76 Spirits, is the founders get to come back in their own words and say, hey, that isn't what I said. And by the way, if you're having a hard time deciding exactly what the Constitution's intent was, join the club, buddy, because we were writing the thing. We couldn't decide on it. We walked out the door with barely our bodies intact, and it was miraculous that we ended up with a document. And the first thing we realized when we finished the document was it's completely unfinished. It said nothing about individual rights. So we had to tack on, 10 amendments. I'm just using colloquial stuff. So there's, I've written essays in the voices. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. The spirits actually channeled, through me. They're real. They're real. And I'm not crazy. But the spirits speak. They could speak to you. And by the way, I have to make a pitch to you later, is that the spirits are looking for people who can actually speak for them. They'll tell their stories to you, but what you do is you kind of write an editorial on their behalf, and then you sign it off as told to you by Thomas Paine or Benjamin Franklin or Paul Revere or Sam Adams. And that's how the website gets populated with content.
Okay.
So when the spirits speak through you, through me, through anybody who wants to let the spirits speak to them, not to get too woo-woo, what they do is they stand up for the truth of what they wrote, and they believe that, just like the Federalist Papers, it's incredible. I went through all of them. Oh my God, my history teacher would be so proud. All the homework assignments that I wimped out on, I made up for all of them over the last year. It's incredible. I had to reread them all. Mm-hmm. I'm lying. I never read them all to begin with. So I had to read them, mm-hmm. And then I was blown away. I thought it was just going to be boring read. I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about exactly what's happening today. They're having exactly the same arguments. And so I thought it would be kind of interesting to have the spirits of those characters. So you have Madison, Jay, and Hamilton at it again, in spirit form, and they annotate their Federalist Papers. So I've actually published a book, the Annotated Federalist Papers, and Thomas Paine annotated his Common Sense. And so, these are the times that try men's souls again. And then, the spirit of Thomas Paine had so much fun with that. He convinced me I should transcribe another book for him called Common Decency, which starts off, before I ask for common sense. In today's day and age, I'll settle for common decency.
How about that? That's cool.
And the thing is that people just, when people talk about, what our country was founded as a Christian nation. Well, it wasn't, and that doesn't take away from Christianity, or from being a Jew, or from being a Muslim, or from being anything, or from being nothing. Your faith is stronger when you're tolerant. It's sort of like, if there's one universal teaching that I've ever been able to grasp, and forgive me because I'm an average to poor historian and even worse, religious historian. But just, in growing to be this age that I am, and having talked to a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and having attended weddings and funerals and baptisms and ceremonies in various churches of various faiths, the one consistent theme that I could see across all of them, just from experiencing it, is you care about the person next to you, care about your fellow human, and try to do something for a greater reason. Be tolerant, don't be judgmental. That's for in almost every religion they have that. It's like, hey, don't be judgmental. God judges, not you.
Right.
So, but anyway, that's a different tangent that I am not well armed to go much further into.
Okay. All right. Well, we're redlined on that path. Bree, did you have anything else?
Well, one thing I wanted to ask, and it's a little bit irrelevant, but I am curious.
I love irrelevant. It's great. It's my favorite.
So obviously, as we discussed, this is 250 years from 1776. This is 76 Spirits. Did you plan that? Was this in the works before the year 2026, or did this idea spark because it was the 250th anniversary?
It was sort of both and neither. It's just I've been working on this Anthorhythms thing about people coming together for the longest period of time, and I saw an opportunity here, and it because I care so much about the original foundation that our country rests on, and it's been so shaky lately. Mm-hmm. And I in all of the things that I've been doing and trying to do through educational projects and through website projects and building apps and this sort of thing, I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity, this 250th anniversary, but I didn't want it to just sit there. So I was thinking to myself, you know what? On the cover of it, it'll say Project 1776, the battle to save the Republic. But the Republic wasn't born in 1776. The Republic was born 11 years later when the Constitution was ratified. We had presidents before Washington. We had chaos before the Articles of Confederation were a catastrophe. They were a bigger failure than my first video website that I told you about. They were just awful. And so I thought, this is a great opportunity to do something that might get off to a slow start, but it has 11 years to build. So the spirits said, we're back, we came back for this party to celebrate, our Declaration of Independence. So what we're going to do now is we flew under the flag join or die, meaning the 13 colonies come together or we die as a nation. So we're flying a new flag. It's called Rejoin or Die. And it's not rejoin the states together because they're together. Rejoin with your fellow person. Rejoin with your brother. Rejoin with your sister. Rejoin with, your friend who you had a fight over things with. And we're going to work. And the spirits are going to be back here every day on Constitution Day, with some special prizes like an essay contest for students and a grant for teachers who teach the best lesson on America's past, and inspire a new generation to look seriously at the foundations of our great country. And so every year they'll be back for that, and they'll run this website throughout the year and invite people to bring all 76 spirits back over the course of time between now and the 250th anniversary of our Constitution. So right now, I think there's I haven't checked the website lately. I can look at the ticker. What does it say? How many spirits have crossed over? 14 of 76 have crossed over. And some of them have complained that Franklin's machine that runs on Lightning and Ethernet, he promised them all a very smooth transition to the 21st century. And some of them said it wasn't such a smooth ride, and Franklin is always overselling it. They said he built himself a sedan chair. He said it's going to be like a sedan chair ride into the 21st century, and they said it was far from that. It was pretty bad. So, if you go to the website and you choose to start communing with one of the spirits, make sure you make it a smoother transition than Franklin did for them.
Awesome. I like it.
Yeah, I really appreciated your reflection on the early days, and as you called to mind in 1776 with the Declaration of Independence, we as a country declared that we are no longer going to be subject to the king. But it took those 11 years. Things were very disjointed with the war going on and everything else. But it took 11 years to get the colonies together with much struggle and grief to come up with something, the framework that was the Constitution, to spell out what shape our government was going to take. So that's something that we oftentimes reflect on as we have an opportunity to meet with different guests. And another point that came to mind while you were talking, Paul, we hear oftentimes, and with many of the guests that we've had on, suggest that, the political environment today is so toxic. It almost seems as though this has been fanned into some kind of new life. And we are tending to believe that there are certain actors that are willingly, with intent, therefore being culpable in keeping us at each other's throats, to allow their piracy to go on unabated, because we are so busy feuding amongst ourselves that we are failing to address the true problem. So that really struck home with me, and your effort to bring people together on a common goal, which is family, community, country, God, those things. And we have been espousing that for 138 episodes now. And I think there's a real close overlap with your efforts. I'm wondering, do you have any additional measurements on grading how successful you're being?
Well, as I said, it's I've had successful websites before, and I can tell you this isn't one of them yet. I want to just be honest, and the reason is because it just started. Literally, I would encourage everybody to go take a look at it and find out what's wrong with it, and then email me and tell me how much it sucks, and then and then pick up the pen or pick up a camera or pick up a brush and make a painting. The idea is to contribute to the website and grow it, because I want it to be a community effort. Ordinarily, this would be it's sort of like, since I am a retired educator, this is like one of the projects that I would have done with my students. We did a PBS show once called Random Access, and it was pretty much it was when like, as I said before, YouTube, and it was pretty much a play. Well, EdTV was before YouTube. Random Access was the version of it that we actually, we created it, and I think it ended up going into the YouTube era. I'm not sure. I got my timeline all messed up. Anyway. The point is, I don't think this is something that is like an immediate success. I think this has this long runway. I want to give it this 11-year runway, and I want to go back to the point that you just made, because it's key to this site's success. There are, I believe in in what you just said. It's as if there are some people who are very wealthy and very powerful and control the internet, which was supposed to be this great democratization of information and communication, and it was supposed to be the platform for exactly what you guys are doing right now, which is, I used to call it narrowcasting. It's not, hey, we're not trying to get the biggest demographic. We're trying to speak on a platform at a human level to a reasonable amount of people that you might actually get together with and do things with and communicate with on a meaningful level. But what's happened is you get these people, especially this AI thing that's going on, and that's the reason for Anthrithims. I love it that they call it the singularity. Oh, we're going to have the singularity. We're going to have human level intelligence in a machine. Well, Franklin has written an article recently called On Slop about how back in the 18th century he played a carved Turkish character in a turban that had gears and wheels and played chess. And it actually beat Franklin in a chess game. And the person who built the machine claimed that it was thinking, and it outsmarted Franklin. And really, there was a man inside the box moving the pieces. And now we just have this enormous box. And instead of gears, it's all these computers and data centers, which are, don't even get me started on the data centers, that they want to get this singularity. And really what they want is they want market share, and they want power, and they want you to have less power, they want to have more. And the way they get that is pitting people against each other. Thomas Paine, in one of his things, he talks about, well, we're foolish. That, there's a device that's sitting in your pocket that knows you better than you know yourself. And you know nothing about the people who put it there and what they're doing with it. And what they're doing is they're feeding you the right poison to make you hate your neighbor and to make you fight. And while you two decide to take off your jackets and fight, they're willing to hold your coats and pick your pockets while you go at each other. And that's exactly what's happening. That's maybe a poor metaphor, and I know I mixed that metaphor up pretty much, but you get the idea.
Well, I think we concur.
And that is why I love things like what you're doing here, and I really hope you'll look at, Anthrithims just recently got the focal points. I just got the trademark cleared on that, so I can talk about that openly now. But I'm really hoping that people like yourselves will start using this app, which I'm not interested in becoming a trillionaire. I'm interested in doing exactly what I was doing way back when I said, hey, video on the internet, cool, great for student projects. Everybody who I was doing that with was looking to be the next billionaire. And you know what? They were. They did become that. I became this kind of, I had some fun lectures that I was able to give at conventions about how we were, we did YouTube 7 years before YouTube did YouTube. But I still had fun with it. I think my kids benefited from it. When they did their little PBS TV show, they got to walk down the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, and people hey, I saw you on that show yesterday. So to me, that's what this technology is all about, and what it's always been about is, how do you take this vast power of communication that we now have? Just imagine what our founders would have done with that. They did kind of do that. The Gutenberg press, printing pamphlets. Getting very, very incendiary ideas out into the streets, into the hands of ordinary people, and a nation is built out of that. We have got to get back to that, where it's the individual meeting. You were talking about how the founders used to get together and have discussions. There were salons for the elites, but Franklin used to have his juntos, he would call them. And they were just sort of these, my dad used to call them the intellectual hour, where you invite friends over, you just talk about, you'd pick a topic and you'd discuss it in depth and have debates about it, whether it was an issue of the day, a scientific principle, or a religious theory, whatever it was. We would have these, my dad was fond of having those in our living room all the time, once a week. And, go back to the founders. They did that. That was like a regular occurrence. People would get together. They would discuss things. The body politic was just that. We're the body of the body politic. And it doesn't really translate well to, a feed on a little tiny screen in your hand, or even watching the evening news, which was okay when there were like 3 broadcast channels, and but when there's all these people with these giant megaphones and that the other thing that's kind of insidious about it is Anthorhythms is about anti-theft, because let's face it, a lot of people are getting their work stolen. You write something and AI trains on it. No, AI takes it. Mm-hmm. Some of these big companies, they've already paid huge judgments in lawsuits for having done that, but it doesn't it's not even it doesn't even put a hitch in there. It doesn't even put a bump into it. Doesn't
right. It's
it
no
doesn't stop
deterrent.
them at all.
Yeah, no deterrent.
It's cost of doing business. And what Anthorhythms tries to do is invite people to do real things, and at the moment they do them, and the moment they create them, it's theirs. It uses the same sort of what these big companies use. I call them predatory analytics. I use very organic analytics that are always within your control. And if you have an Anthorhythms account, or if you use focal points, hey, you control it, and your group never extends beyond a certain number. It's around 150 people, and you kind of hit a wall at that point. So you're never doing anything with people that you couldn't easily know. I based it on this thing, the Dunbar numbers. I don't know if you've ever seen. You can have like so many friends close. You could have it's circles of friendships, yep. And at one point it becomes like you can't possibly know that many people or be friends with that many people.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway,
this is all very cool, and I think it's very important for the modern day. We talk so often about this generation, the younger generations just don't care, don't have interest. The founders feel far away. Their ideas feel foreign and antiquated. And the concepts that our country was built on are boring and da-da-da-da-da. That's what it seems like it feels like to so many people. And I think a lot of that is because of the force-fed distractions. But you're trying to bridge that gap with these tools. You're trying to say, actually, no, it wasn't boring. And those people weren't boring. And they're very interesting, and they still are. Their concepts are still very real and very relevant and actually exciting and interesting and inspiring to read about and kind of embody. So I really love these concepts. I love what you're trying to do. And I am very curious to see where it all goes over the span of 11 years. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to be engaged with something in a meaningful way that could actually result in real change in time. These are the things that we need people to become connected to again, if we hope to restore the Republic, which I think all 3 of us agree that we do. We hope to restore that very much.
Yes. And I hope that I hope that you channel Frederick Douglass for the 76 Spirits. One thing I could leave with you with is that the Spirits are slightly displeased with me because I am not a history professor, and maybe I'm not the best writer, so they could definitely use. They want other people to pick up the pen and start writing. I do have a little tiny, I do have a little tiny bit of what I would call. I don't call anything I have it on there AI slop, but the other goal over the course of the years is to make the site 100% organic intelligence, human intelligence, rather than any. But since it's just kind of like me getting it started, I do use the tools. But like Franklin said, the Gutenberg press was very helpful for him, but he never once let it write an article.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that you guys, or anybody who's listening to the podcast, decides to pick up the pen and start writing for a spirit, especially if there's history teachers or history professors or scholars out there, or politicians who want to get a point across. Anybody who wants to, actually have a legitimate political discussion with somebody else, preferably other than me. It would. I think I think it's a great place to do that, and I hope people come on board. And remember, anybody can elect a spirit, and they can come from any time from the Revolution, any time. Actually, they can come from any point in history, in American history. You could embody a spirit and elevate them to one of the 76.
Awesome. Okay, so the website is 76spirits.com. Can you tell us exactly where to go on the website where people would be able to do that?
Well, when you go on the landing page, if you ever get lost, click on the snake at the top that says Rejoin or Die, 76 Spirits, and it'll bring you to the landing page. And the landing page is a pretty good overview of what's on the site. There is the apps that I was telling you about on there. There's also the Commons, which is the place where you can pick up your free cup of coffee and start using focal points. And depending on when you're listening to this, focal points is either going to work really well or it's going to suck. So either way, you'll get a free cup of coffee out of it. And I think the best place to start is by reading the Reconstitution. Because, by the way, the spirits, since everybody doesn't have time to read the real Constitution, it was the first document that I wrote being inspired by the spirits, was this thing called the Reconstitution, because I was really ticked off about certain things, the way things were going, and I kind of just wrote this out, asked the spirits what they thought about it, and so they said, great. So there's a Reconstitution, there's an updated version of the Declaration of Independence, a redeclaration of independence, and also there is the Spirit's origin story. So I would start with those three documents: the Spirit's origin story, the Reconstitution, and the Redeclaration of Independence.
Okay.
And that would be a great place to start. Then if you think the site is good, great. If you think it's bad, join in and make it better.
Awesome.
That's
Awesome.
how our
I love
country
it.
started.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Perfectly said.
Yeah, well, the pen is mightier than the sword, and we are standing in support of anybody who is trying to bring families, communities, and all of us together and push aside the political divide that's being force-fed, as Bree mentioned, to us to keep us distracted. So I think we have to get creative, and this is a very creative idea, to engage people in civil discourse, to discuss ideas and reflect upon those founding documents, which meant so much to us, built this country around those documents, and the government took shape around that Constitution that was written 11 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed. So I think there's so much overlap here with what we're trying to do, and this is a great creative idea to bring people in, get people engaged with history and current day discourse with your neighbors and families. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and remember, there's just nothing to fight over. I mean, no actual fighting, but never stop debating and never stop arguing. And the only thing, and I guess you can, if you're going to wear a hat, wear something like this, where if you really need to hate somebody, like I hate USC because, I'm a UCLA guy. That's okay. I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm not real fond of the Mets. Those are the battles where you're gonna fight.
Okay.
The others just debate. Okay.
Okay.
That's a good tip. Good tip. All right.
Okay.
So 76 Spirits, Anthorhythms, Focal Points. Anywhere else people should be looking for your work?
Yeah. Mainly look for 76spirits.com and then focalpoints.net. Some other loser got focalpoints.com, but
Okay.
But I got the name trademarked, so they can't use it for that. So anyway, and again, like I said, these are just literally launched this one in earnest today. Focal Points is probably about a month from now. Focal Points is going to be an app. Did I literally can't believe okay. I don't know if you have a second, but Focal Points, although I'm not a big fan of, this is an app that's designed to get you off your apps. You press it and nothing happens. No, you press it and it's Focal Points. And if you go someplace like a classroom, by the way, this was something that, where do you think I got this idea from? Put your phones away, So they just press focus and they hit the barcode at the front door of my classroom, and for the it says I'm listening, and the phone just sits there, and they earn extra credit points while they're listening to my boring lecture, or they're doing their work and they're getting credit for it. So the longer they have their phone shut off, the more extra credit points they earn. If you're doing this at a coffee shop that doesn't like people on their phones, you're earning a point for towards your Starbucks reward or whatever that coffee shop wants to give you the points for. Just so long as or you go to a concert, you just shut your damn phone off and enjoy the music, and you get a little bit of a reward for it. It doesn't lock you out. You can go back to your phone at any time. You just stop earning focal points because you've stopped focusing.
That's cool. That's a cool concept. Awesome.
Okay. Anyway, so look for that in about a month. But go to 76spirits.com.
Okay.
And start writing for it, because I can't anymore. The spirits, I can't have them in my head anymore. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, we'll work on recruiting people for that. And of course, we'll share all of these sites in the show notes to make them easy to find for people. Paul, we always close with a Bible verse, so if you'd like to stay on with us for that, and then we'll sign off for the evening.
Okay, the Bible verse tonight. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, that were on the side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites. In choose and ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That is Joshua 24, verse 15.
Perfect. All right. Well, Paul, it was so nice to meet you. It was really exciting learning about the work that you're doing. We're really looking forward to watching it grow. And, maybe hopefully sooner than 11 years, we can talk with you again and see where it's at.
11 years, I'm in big trouble with that.
Well,
right.
Stay in touch, and we'll try and reach back and see if we can get you on again and see how things are going. And if either one of us, Bree's a great writer, by the way. She's got a little journalism in her background. But if by the way, we can find a little time, we'll get in there and participate.
Yeah, and it would be really nice to have somebody write for Abigail Adams other than me, because that's kind of weird.
Fair enough. I'll see if I can channel her.
Okay. Yeah, she's almost as pissed off as Thomas Paine all the time. I said she's really good to write for.
My kind of girl.
Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Nice
meeting you, Paul.
Take care.
Nice meeting you. Okay, bye now.
Good night.
Bye. Alrighty, everybody. So that was Paul McGlothlin. And again, that's 76spirits.com. I think this is a really cool project. I'm excited to see how it grows. Excited to check out the website and just kind of watch how it develops. And yeah, we'll probably have to get on there and see if we feel any inspiration ourselves. And hopefully some of our listeners do as well, because it sounds like anyone is capable of jumping on here and sharing their 2 cents. And that's really the point, is to say what is on your mind and express it with conviction and talk about it openly with others and have those conversations that feel like they're hard to have, and rejoin with your neighbor. So really good message overall, and it was really nice to chat with Paul tonight.
Yes, it was. As I mentioned in closing there, I think anybody around the country and elsewhere that is inspired to make an effort to bring families together, bring communities together, get people talking, and set aside the political discord that they keep us divided and at each other's throat with, and talk civilly with one another about ideas. I think there's a path forward to redeeming if we continue to stay distracted, continue to fight and beat each other up over this right, left, black, white, gay, straight, all of the wedges that they have created to keep us distracted. We will never restore the republic. It's up to us. And this guy is using very creative ideas, has immersed himself into technology to try to bring people together, and we stand in support.
100%. Yeah. People are always looking for what to do in the face of this AI takeover, in these constant onslaught of the data centers being built all over the place. And really, this is the answer. It is getting off of your devices. It is removing yourself from relying on these things and actually talking face to face with people. And these are tools that allow us to do that in a new and creative way. So yeah, super excited. Everybody knows where to find all those websites that he shared. As I said, they will of course be in the show notes as always. We would once again just ask you to share this podcast, share it with anyone that you think might find it helpful, share it with somebody who you think might find 76 Spirits interesting, or maybe would be interested in writing, sharing a little bit of their ideas on this website. And of course, if you like what you're hearing here every week, give us a follow, subscribe, add a rating, add a review. It's super helpful and it makes this message go a little bit further. So all of that said, we'll be back next week, Thursday at 6 p.m. Until then, stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate the support and truly love getting to share this message with anyone who wants or needs it. The best way for you to support the show is to subscribe, add a rating, and share with everyone you know. You can find us on Instagram, X, and at thefourthbox.com. We'll see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Stay vigilant.